Deep in the heart of Amish culture lies a world of unique beliefs and practices, distinct from the mainstream. These individuals live a life centered on non-resistance and non-violence, all based on their interpretation of Jesus' teachings. From wartime imprisonment during World War I to the ultimate sacrifice of execution, Amish men have paid a price for their convictions. But amidst their peaceful existence, they've harbored a secret, hidden from the world's prying eyes. Join us as we show you 15 intriguing revelations about Amish men, the secrets they don't want you to know. Number 15. Beards but no mustache. One of the most recognizable features of Amish men is their full beards paired with bare upper lips. Amish men put great effort into growing and maintaining their often very impressive beards while avoiding growing mustaches. This tradition stems from the 1700s, when elaborate mustaches were commonly worn by military officers, especially Prussian soldiers. As pacifists who rejected military service, the Amish sought to distinguish themselves from these warlike mustachioed men by adopting beards and prohibiting mustaches within their communities. For the Amish, beards hold religious significance, as many biblical figures are described as having beards. Growing a beard is seen as demonstrating loyalty to God's word. Passages from the Bible are interpreted literally by the Amish, leading them to emulate the beard-wearing men described in Scripture. A beard grown after marriage is considered a rite of passage into Amish manhood. Cutting off an Amish man's beard without permission is now classified as a hate crime in some places, showing how central beards are to Amish identity and faith. Young, unmarried Amish men are not permitted to grow full beards. Only once an Amish man marries can he stop shaving and grow out his beard. This distinction helps signify their married status. Amish women also stop cutting their hair at marriage. An Amish couple transitioning into these visible markers of maturity together illustrates their entrance into new roles within the church and community. While Amish men put care into maintaining their often lengthy beards, mustaches remain strictly prohibited. An Amish man donning a mustache would be seen as vain and going against the community's values of humility and plainness. The difference in attitudes towards beards and mustaches among the Amish has somewhat blurred over time. Some contemporary Amish are more accepting of trimmed mustaches, especially in more progressive groups. However, within traditional Old Order Amish society, a mustache remains taboo. Number 14. Bed courtship. A traditional relationship practice still continues among some conservative Amish groups known as bed courtship or bundling. This involves a young unmarried couple spending the night together talking and getting acquainted while resting fully clothed on a bed. Though it may seem scandalous from a modern perspective, bed courtship was meant to foster intimate conversation between Amish youth. Several factors gave rise to the practice historically. Rural Amish households were often small and lacked private rooms for couples to speak alone. Spending time together overnight addressed this problem prudently. Additionally, terminating courtships was less complicated if they proved incompatible before marriage, avoiding later divorce. Allowing bed courtship enabled suitable matches to emerge through extensive conversation in chaste, supervised settings. To prevent illicit activity, couples were bundled separately on the bed with heavy coverings or a wooden board dividing them. Some courting beds even had a partial wall or screen reinforcing separation. A family chaperone discreetly slept nearby to ensure propriety was maintained. While less common over time, bed courtship endures in some Amish communities as a carefully bounded custom on the path to marriage. Number 13. Amish men refuse military service. One of the best-known Amish practices is pacifism and rejection of military service on the grounds of religious conscience. Their teachings emphasize the principle of non-resistance, eschewing violence and confrontation with enemies. Participation in warfare is seen as violating biblical commandments and core Amish values, regardless of the cause. This belief in non-resistance comes from Jesus' teaching in the Sermon on the Mount to turn the other cheek and love your enemies. Amish interpretations of these biblical passages strictly prohibit engaging in carnal warfare. To take up arms would profoundly violate their doctrines of peace, non-violence, and refusal to render harm, even in self-defense. Historically, their conscientious objection led to abuse and persecution. During World War I, some Amish men were subjected to beatings, mock trials, and torture for obeying the non-resistance doctrine and resisting conscription. 4 Amish men were killed for their refusal to fight. In World War II, conscientious objectors from Amish and related peace churches were placed in civilian work camps rather than armed forces. Through consistent peaceful lobbying, the Amish secured exemption from the draft and combat service during Vietnam and subsequent wars. Mandatory participation was replaced by voluntary service programs, such as providing medical care behind the front lines. However, their pacifism is still not always well understood by non-Amish society. In the Amish view, their responsibility is living righteously within their own communities according to biblical principles, not trying to reform the morals of the outside world through violence or politics. Military service would force them to act counter to personal beliefs without necessarily changing government policies. Refusing to fight has secured respect for their peaceful integrity. The Amish commitment to non-resistance stems from both religious and practical motives. Along with scriptural directives, avoiding military engagement prevents direct participation in morally questionable acts of violence. It would disturb their conscience to actively take human life, even enemies. From a practical standpoint, throughout history, the Amish learned that violent confrontation only breeds more violence rather than resolving conflicts. Their peace witness aims to break that self-perpetuating cycle. Number 12. No modern technology. The Amish are known for living without modern technologies many take for granted. Their selective avoidance of technology comes from a desire to protect their traditional way of life and communal values. The use of new technologies and gadgets is decided based on the potential impact rather than rejection for rejection's sake. If a technology is deemed harmful to their culture and fellowship, the Amish will shun adoption of it. Items such as televisions, radios, personal computers, and smartphones are broadly prohibited in Amish communities. These devices are seen as pathways to the outside world that could encourage young people to stray from their upbringing. Avoiding television preserves the Amish emphasis on family and community over outside entertainment. Restricted access to mass media also limits exposure to violence, sexuality, and other content considered incompatible with Amish values. Certain technologies and appliances are permitted if they benefit Amish work and family life without disruption. Some exceptions may include battery-powered lamps, refrigerators, gas grills, and washing machines. Batteries over electricity allow the use of helpful devices while preventing connection to the public power grid. These negotiated compromises balance pragmatism with retaining Amish identity. However, automobile ownership remains forbidden universally due to implications of status and separation from the community. Ultimately, the Amish weigh each technology based on whether its benefits outweigh influences deemed a threat. Their criteria prioritize technologies that reinforce dependence on family and neighbors over those enabling independence. The nuanced approach preserves useful appliances that won't upend Amish society while retaining values of simplicity, humility, and closeness to nature and faith. Number 11. Hidden problem. A troubling issue kept hidden in Amish society is sexual abuse perpetrated by men against women. The combination of patriarchal culture and an aversion to involving outside authorities allows abuse to persist quietly. Some scholars believe it is more widespread than reported. Factors enabling abuse include an emphasis on female submission and forgiveness toward the abuser. Victims who speak out may face accusations of fabricating stories to hurt the community. Seeking accountability through law enforcement is discouraged. The Amish believe the church, rather than the courts, should address wrongdoing. But inadequate consequences often follow, especially when offenders show remorse. Acknowledging abuse would conflict with the idyllic public image of Amish life guided by Christian values. Victims are pressured to keep up appearances by staying silent. Addressing this problem openly could also foster divisions and distrust within interdependent communities necessary for Amish survival. There are strong incentives to downplay or deny the issue. However, Amish publications have begun calling for more serious treatment of abuse allegations and protection of victims within the bounds of their faith. Some leaders recognize quietly allowing abuse to persist actually harms the community more than intervention in cases of clear wrongdoing. Increased transparency regarding this issue will better uphold their values of accountability and justice. The Amish seek to address sensitive matters like abuse internally to the greatest extent possible. Involving outside law enforcement is a last resort, but prioritizing reputation over compassion often allows injustice to continue unchecked. With greater awareness, the Amish can hopefully start breaking the silence surrounding abuse while retaining their solidarity. Number 10. No state benefit. A central dimension of Amish identity is self-sufficiency and separation from government support. Amish church districts function autonomously to handle their members' needs independent of public social welfare programs. Each congregation collects donations and administers aid to cover the expenses of its sick or elderly members as necessary. Contrary to misperceptions, the Amish do pay all taxes besides Social Security. But in 1965, a landmark Supreme Court case exempted the Amish from paying Social Security taxes given their independent social welfare system caring for members regardless of age. Not participating in Social Security avoids dependence on the federal government and interference in Amish ways. This exemption means Amish business owners do not have to pay Social Security payroll taxes if they hire Amish employees. Amish workers are unable to receive Social Security benefits even if employed by non-Amish companies. But the Amish do pay income, property, sales, and other taxes required for citizenship. Refusing Social Security contributes to their ideal of communal self-reliance, not generalized tax evasion. Beyond Social Security, the Amish also decline to participate in government welfare, food stamps, Medicaid, and similar programs. Healthcare is covered through intense fundraising efforts when bills exceed what families can afford. Rejecting government assistance strengthens bonds within their independent collectivist communities according to Amish values. It also prevents outside influence over Amish governance and morality. Number 9. Rumspringer. A unique phase of Amish adolescence is Rumspringer, which translates to running around in German. Rumspringer represents a period of freedom that begins following an Amish youth's 16th birthday. During this transitional time, teens are granted leniency from many of the strict rules of Amish life and experience greater exposure to the modern outside world. Lasting around 1 to 2 years, Rumspringer allows curious Amish teens to explore activities otherwise banned in their communities, such as wearing modern fashions, using technology, driving cars, and experimenting with alcohol and parties. Parental restrictions are loosened, as this time is seen as an opportunity for youth to discern whether they want to commit to baptism and official adult Amish membership. Despite gaining a reputation as being wildly rebellious, experiences during Rumspringer vary greatly depending on the individual and their family's standards. While some certainly embrace the chance to party and sow wild oats, just as many use this period to prepare for baptism through solemn spiritual reflection. Increased socialization with non-Amish peers is also common. After their Rumspringer ends, Amish young adults must make the choice to either fully embrace baptism into the Amish church or leave the community for good. Surprisingly, the vast majority opt to become official members and reintegrate back into Amish society. Rumspringer serves as a controlled outlet to satisfy youthful curiosity and freedom before settling down into obedient Amish family life. For those returning, their experience outside Amish life often strengthens their appreciation for the wisdom of its old ways. Any further deviance after baptism risks excommunication and shunning. While confirmation into the Amish church and its rules is a serious commitment, Rumspringer offers young people approaching this junction a chance to solidify this devotion through exposure to alternatives. The origins of Rumspringer, as a tolerated period of adolescent freedom, can be traced back to Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries. Anabaptist groups like the Amish faced severe religious persecution at the time. In order to shelter their faith, allowing youth Rumspringer privileges helped them evade detection from hostile authorities seeking to crush dissent. What began as a pragmatic necessity to protect minority religion later evolved into a rite of passage, preparing the next generation of devout Amish. Europe's tumultuous religious landscape hundreds of years ago established Rumspringer as an important phase for Amish youth to this day. Although life is no longer as perilous for North American Amish communities, Rumspringer continues serving several valuable functions. It lets young people experience desired freedom and exploration under the safety net of their Amish upbringing before wholeheartedly embracing adult baptismal vows. Allowing responsible trial and error helps ground final commitments. For many, joyful running around also stirs a longing for the security and meaning of family and faith afterward. Number 8. Forbidden intimacy. Attitudes concerning intimate relationships before marriage within Amish society tend to appear strict and morally conservative on the surface. Amish youth are forbidden from dating or courting until starting Rumspringer around the age of 16. Even during courtship, couples are heavily chaperoned, and contact is restricted to supervised visits or letters. Premarital intimacy, especially physical relations, is officially considered sinful and prohibited. Couples who become prematurely intimate must repent before the church through confession prior to getting married. Outwardly, the Ordnung, the Amish Code of Conduct, rejects any intimacy between unmarried Amish youth. However, as in any community, reality does not always align with official mores among the youth. During Rumspringer especially, some experimentation away from watchful eyes undoubtedly occurs. Traditionally, bed courtship allowed premarital intimacy to arise. Though waning, secretly physical relationships still emerge at times despite the taboo. If an unmarried Amish girl becomes pregnant, quick marriage is arranged to avoid bearing a child out of wedlock. Shotgun weddings prevent visible evidence of premarital intimacy, but pregnancies before marriage subtly expose inconsistencies between Amish ideals and the actions of some youth. Ultimately, while premarital intimacy is theoretically forbidden and considered sinful, the youthful desire for romance endures even under Amish strictures. Discreetly intimate relations between couples testing boundaries may be more common than openly acknowledged. But Amish society emphasizes virtue and chastity, at least on the surface, through its formal prohibitions. The Amish emphasis on abstinence before marriage has roots in the Christian Bible, which prohibits fornication. Amish church leaders cite passages warning against sexual immorality. Premarital intimacy is considered not just taboo, but sinfully disobedient. Couples who transgress must humble themselves through confession and make amends before being accepted into full church membership. Although premarital intimacy happens covertly at times, the social pressure and shame of openly violating Amish moral teachings prevent it from becoming widespread. Youths are aware intimacy could ruin social standing. Visible pregnancy necessitating quick marriage also reinforces the importance of virtue. For most Amish teens and young adults, the risks outweigh the tempting rewards. Number 7. 8 years of formal education. In keeping with their focus on practical skills for life, Amish children attend just 1 to 2 years of schooling beyond grade school. Most rural Amish schools only hold classes through 8th grade. Afterward, academics take a back seat to prepare children for adulthood through occupations benefiting the community. Their selective approach to education aligns with the fact that most Amish go on to become farmers, tradesmen, homemakers, and other roles not requiring further schooling. Education beyond 8th grade could expose impressionable youth to non-Amish worldviews, conflicting with their upbringing. Keeping formal education minimal better enables retaining children within their traditional lifestyle. Amish schools themselves instill values reinforcing community identity, along with basic literacy and math skills. With small class sizes, instruction is attentive and nurturing while still upholding discipline and obedience to elders. Amish teachers share the culture and faith of their students. The schools successfully graduate youth ready for baptism and work supporting the community. While unusual education standards today, the Amish system effectively achieves its aims. Hands-on learning prepares capable farmers and craftspeople carrying on Amish traditions. Limiting outside influence enables maintaining the continuity of faith and culture generation after generation. Schooling stays focused on what is essential for their way of life. The Amish take responsibility for operating their own private schools to insulate children from unwanted outside influences. Much consideration goes into ensuring the school curriculum and environment reflects Amish priorities. Parents exercise control rather than delegating their child's learning to others. Close ties between families and teachers allow complementary educational standards, supporting what children learn at home according to Amish values. Keeping education local and accountable prevents broad assimilation into mainstream culture. Number 6. No Medicare taxes. A central aspect of Amish identity is self-sufficiency, including independently caring for their own healthcare needs. Unlike other Americans, the Amish do not pay into or collect Medicare benefits. They have a religious objection to participating in government social welfare programs. This exemption was granted in 1965 after the Amish successfully argued mandatory Medicare enrollment violated their First Amendment rights. They proved their communities had adequately cared for aging members long before Medicare existed. The Supreme Court upheld allowing the Amish to withdraw from Social Security and decline Medicare coverage. Rather than dependence on federal health care, the Amish uphold a mutual aid ethic of community members assisting each other in times of medical need. Hospital bills beyond what families can pay are covered through fundraising efforts like benefit auctions and donations. Discounts are negotiated with local hospitals to reduce costs as well. This communal approach to healthcare financing strengthens social bonds within Amish society. Caring for their own also prevents government interference in Amish life. However, lacking insurance poses a heavy financial burden when serious medical issues arise. Some life-saving procedures may be declined due to prohibitively high costs without assistance. Rumspringer accidents involving uninsured youth also strain communal medical funds. While avoiding Medicare prevents assimilation into mainstream society, practical challenges exist to sustaining such an insular system in modern times. The Amish way relies on retaining traditional trades and family structures, supporting elderly and sick members. Contemporary healthcare costs present difficulties in maintaining this independence from federal assistance, barring dire emergencies requiring hospitalization. Yet the Amish remain strongly committed to taking care of community members in times of need, as they have for generations. Mutual aid is not just a matter of finance, but also reinforcing social interdependence and Christian charity. Families will sacrifice much more to help fellow Amish facing illness or injury than any government could ask of taxpayers. This deep obligation to their own enables them to persevere without Medicare despite escalating medical expenses in recent decades. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Amish men lead a remarkable way of life, but what truly sets them apart is their unmistakable dress style and iconic beards. However, when seen together as a group, don't you find their collective appearance rather fascinating? Share your thoughts on their unique fashion sense in the comments below. Number 5. Social media and Amish youth. Rumspringer, the traditional Amish adolescent period of greater freedom, has taken on a new intensity in the age of social media. Amish youth on Rumspringer typically gain exposure to technology prohibited in their communities, including digital social platforms enabling connection with non-Amish peers. The consequences of mixing teenage freedom with unlimited digital communication can be unpredictable. Some youth embrace social media's capacity to arrange secret gatherings involving alcohol, romance, modern music, and other enticements during Rumspringer. Online anonymity allows even those hesitant about direct disobedience to privately reach out beyond their communities. Posting photos of Rumspringer adventures online brings added excitement. However, consequences inevitably result when personal photos and uncensored conversations spread rapidly. Online posts documenting rule-breaking behavior during Rumspringer have at times outraged Amish parents and church elders. Backlash from visible social media use causes some youth to further commit to Amish values, while also exacerbating generational divides over technology. While certainly not all Amish teens participate, social media provides another avenue to explore non-Amish lifestyle attractions during the few years of Rumspringer freedom. Just like teens everywhere, the Amish must balance youthful indiscretion enabled by technology against long-term life choices aligned with their upbringing. The permanence of digital footprints online complicates this discernment. Amish church leaders have cautioned parents to vigilantly monitor teens' access to technology during Rumspringer. Some bishops prohibit smartphones entirely. However, enforcing rules against tech use once youth leave home requires cooperation from non-Amish friends and establishments. The forces social media unleashes will reshape Amish youth experiences and choices for the foreseeable future, for better or worse. The outcome depends on instilling individual and collective wisdom. Number 4. Inbreeding and genetic disorders. Intermarriage within the relatively closed Amish population over generations has led to an increased frequency of certain hereditary conditions. Because few outsiders join Amish communities, their gene pool remains limited. An insufficient degree of genetic variation increases the manifestation of recessive disorders when both parents unknowingly carry the gene. Rare conditions prominent among the Amish due to communal intermarriage include dwarfism, Angelman syndrome, and several metabolic disorders. Some are life-threatening if not properly managed. Cystic fibrosis is also more common. The Amish feel a responsibility to care for those born with disabilities. However, avoiding the introduction of new genetic material presents health challenges. Cultural values are also a factor. The Amish are understandably wary of modern genetic testing and procedures that could enable the prevention of some disorders through screening prospective couples. Genetic counseling clashes with their emphasis on accepting God's will. The Amish refrain from selective termination of fetuses likely to have defects, despite the heavy burden of providing lifelong care this entails. They do not practice birth control either. The Amish exhibit unusually clustered incidences of otherwise scarce disorders due to isolation, but their steadfast devotion to community members, regardless of disabilities, is also exceptional. Number 3. Manual trades and crafts. The Amish emphasize learning skills to support themselves rather than pursuing abstract professional careers. Most Amish men carry on manual trades grounded in dedication to faith, family, and community self-sufficiency. Common occupations include farming, construction, woodworking, metalworking, harness making, and various crafts. With farming central to Amish life, skills in animal husbandry and agriculture are imperative. Carpentry and masonry enable the construction of the community's homes, schools, and churches. Trades like harness repair and machine servicing maintain equipment vital to their work. Furniture shops supply essential household items and income. Traditional crafts passed down through generations instill expertise as well as values. Young Amish males in apprenticeships focus on marketable skills that allow them to provide for future families. But work remains close to home rather than venturing into the broader world. Trade work revolves around serving collective needs, rather than the pursuit of wealth and status. Manual trades are not just jobs, but rather an extension of the commitment to faith and community. The reliance on trades and crafts stems from the Amish emphasis on self-sufficiency. Lacking formal education beyond 8th grade, practical hands-on training offers the skills to sustain their way of life. Working with tangible materials is valued over abstract professions. Passing trades to sons enables continuity. Craft work also provides a creative outlet. Amish quilts, wood carvings, furniture, and other products reflect artistry and mastery of techniques developed through years of practice. Their wares keep traditions alive while supporting families. Marketability adapts to the times, but core skills stay constant. Trades call upon talents while binding generations together. Number 2, they don't pose for photos. Photography is another modern convenience, largely rejected by the Amish for both theological and cultural reasons. The Amish interpretation of the Second Commandment prohibits creating graven images, which is understood to include posing for photographs. Photos are considered expressions of vanity and sources of individual pride, which go against core Amish principles of humility and conformity. Portraits set one person above others, rather than upholding their ethos of community interdependence. Some more traditional groups believe photographs steal a piece of the subject's soul. Posing for a photo is interpreted as an act of posing for self-promotion, rather than deference to God. Photography's capacity to fix an idealized image is seen as echoing immortalization or idolatry. For these reasons, the Amish typically avoid being photographed altogether whenever possible, especially in arranged portraits. However, Amish guidelines on photography vary. More progressive subgroups may permit candid photographs made without their consent, especially if taken at a distance rather than posed. Some are fine with images if their faces aren't identifiable. Amish publications designed for an internal audience frequently contain photographs of Amish people, businesses, and culture. But subjects are photographed naturally rather than posed. Even more conservative Amish that forbids photography to understand the outside world do not share their taboo and may pragmatically accept it to an extent when living in close proximity with non-Amish neighbors. Number 1. Dress code. Amish clothing is governed by a strict dress code that values modesty, simplicity, and conformity within their communities. The origins of plain Amish dress trace back to Europe when early Anabaptists faced persecution for their faith. Adopting simple attire helped avoid unwanted attention from hostile authorities. What began as expedient practice became a cultural tradition that still followed centuries later in North America. For Amish men, trousers lack zippers or belt loops, instead using button-flap closures and suspenders. Shirts have plain collars with hook-and-eye fasteners rather than buttons. Suit coats are similarly collarless and fastened near the chest to maintain a plain appearance. Dark, solid colors like black, blue, brown, and gray are standard across garments. Headwear includes wide-brimmed straw hats for summer and black felt hats during colder months. Shoes are also basic black or brown, worn with dark socks. Flashy attire and needless ornamentation are avoided to prevent drawing undue attention or being seen as boastful. Dressing uniformly enables Amish men to blend into the community rather than standing apart as individuals. Women's garments exhibit similar plainness, including long dresses in solid colors, black shoes, and bonnets. Hairstyles remain basic as well, with hair left long and unmangled according to biblical teaching. Symbolic inner qualities of humility and obedience take priority over outward appearance. Following dress standards demonstrates submitting individual preferences to the greater good of the church community. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.